hash-slinging slasher lurked in the darkness. He spent his days foraging and resting by the farmland. His hunch tells the stories of many past battles, torturing and taunting the townspeople for centuries. This hunched demon lied in the fern, patiently awaiting for his next victim.
The Super Sack was tall and thin. He moved with stealth like a ninja. His origins are unknown. He just prowls around the grasslands like a nomad. But he was not like any other nomad. He possessed powers given to him by the straws.
One evening, a great ruler of the Greeks went passing through the slasher's territory. Theophilus' spaceship was parked nearby. This great man was headed for a gathering of wise men of the universe. But what he didn't know was that a special guest was awaiting his arrival. The guest's name was dun dun dun, the hash-slinging slasher. As the great ruler proceeded to the meat hall, he noticed a slight movement in the bushes. The noble Grecian went to inspect, when suddenly the camouflage attacker, known as the Slasher, leapt out of his brushy cover, tackling Theophilus down the steep mountain. As they reached the bottom, the hash-slinging Slasher is beating the wealthy wise man with a secret torture weapon. Dun dun dun, the spatula of doom. As the hash-slinging Slasher wound up for the finishing smack,
A voice called out saying,
"Stop right there, you cooking-ware abuser."
The hash-slinging slasher slowly turned. Did his eyes deceive him? It couldn't be. His biggest fear, wishing he'd never come face to face with. The Super Sack! Hash-slinging slasher's dark soul was trembling with fear. He attempted to retreat, but the Super Sack had other plans. The slasher ran. He was constantly looking back to see if he was being followed. At first he thought he was in the clear, but then, as he glanced backwards, for the first time,
ran into his worst nightmare. He fell to the ground, shivering with fear, as the great hero towered over him. The Super Sack showed no mercy. He reached into his quiver, removing 3 straws. He rested them on his mighty bow and slowly pulled back. The slasher pleaded for mercy, but the sack denied. The sack released the straws as they flew with velocity and magnitude. The tubular torture was inches away from the slasher's face, but nobody really knows how this battle ends. The only remaining piece of the slasher was his flipping utensil and his mask.
Yeah, smoking in London while the snow fall. In another country, so pardon me for the roll call. Damn, who would have thought the fan base was this immense on the first.
Celebrating this victory, the Super Sack and Theophilus, the Great, invite all the townspeople to the meat hall. Once everyone had heard the news of the slasher's death, everyone came pouring into the meat hall. The joy lit up the room. They drank and celebrated all night.
Yes! Alright, everyone quiet!
You be quiet.
Super Sack, get up here. I'd like to thank this young lad for saving my tush today, and I therefore grant him 4 healing carrots. Here you go, Sonny. Keep these for your noble duties.
Everyone in the meat hall cheered and continued to party until the
Pyros
sun
and
came
Crips
out.
all got along. They probably gun me down by the end of the song. Seem like the whole city go against me. Every time I'm in the street, I
Super Sack walked home. He was not aware that this might be his last walk home. A car drove by. The door opened and the sack was out.
Get on those garbage down. Super Sack awakened, tied to a tree. The kidnapper stole everything that the Super Sack had except for his new acquirements, the healing carrots. But they were in his back pocket and there was no chance of him getting them with his hands all tied up. The villain, who was unknown, gave Super Sack a drink. After the Super Sack drank it, the villain told him that he had poisoned it and began to laugh evilly.
I poisoned it.
The Super Sack still managed to use one of his powers for a final time. He brought night to the land for a couple seconds. The villain was so confused. Then when it became light again, the sack was resting against the tree with the healing carrot in his mouth. The villain was amazed. How had he done it? He rushed to smack the carrot out of his mouth, but it was too late. The sack had already broken free. But he was not safe yet.
What is fun? Let me spell it for you. F is for friends who do stuff together.
Both the villain and the Super Sack had agreed to a duel. The two were both given weapons, and the rules were laid down. The rules were to each take 3 steps in the opposite direction and to turn around and fire. They both turned around. The Super Sack took 1 step, turned around, and fired. He didn't play and killed the evil villain in 1 shot. He didn't play by the rules, but he did what he had to do to keep his town safe and evil free.
Super Sack invited one of the townsmen to come beat up the body with him.
No, Leroy, no! No!
Okay, no fire.
Super Sack felt weak. After he had finished the kidnapper and needed to seek medical attention from the poison he had before. As he was trying to figure out what to do, he passed out.
No!
The Sack had awakened. He was unaware of what had happened.
Hey, you're up! Hey, I gotta tell you this cool story about how I lost my arm back in the battle, you know what I'm saying, Doc?
As Super Sack was about to throw in the towel, he noticed his healing carrot on the other side of the room. He then rolled off the bed and inched his way towards his carrot. He slowly squirmed across the floor, panting with each movement. The carrot was gleaming on top of the napkin on the floor, and Sack stuck out his tongue and stretched for the carrot, but he had no luck. He then takes a straw out of his pocket and puts the straw in his mouth, using it to pull the napkin closer to his face. The carrot was finally enraged as he stretched out his tongue farther than he had ever in his life, and he was able to eat the carrot. Which then gave him the strength to get up and walk out the door unharmed.
Super Sack started his new training plan, a plan that no other human could do. He lifted weights for 3 hours a day. Super Sack also ran for 20 miles a day. Now the Sack was back, and he was stronger than ever.
Sack is back! Yeah!
Sack had heard of a villain terrorizing young children and knew he had to put an end to these shenanigans, even if it meant putting an end to his own life. The villain was medium in stature, and he always wore a tie. He also had one trait that couldn't be matched. He was no head. On top of his human body, he had no head. When he walked on the grass in his shadow would die.
Sack then got a call on the sack tooth.
I'm gonna call him a sack tooth. Wait a minute. A blind bandit.
Tiptoeing in my Jordans.
Finally, Sack was at his Sackmobile,
Finally, I'm on my Sackopolis.
and now he was on his merry way to conquer this enemy.
Sack got out of the Sackmobile, sprinting towards the blind bandit.
My Sackmobile. Is that the blind bandit?
Is that the Super Sack?
And the blind bandit got offended. He then charged towards Super Sack and tackled him to the ground. Then threw the blind bandit off to the side and dusted himself off. He then took out the last straw, but the blind bandit smacked the straw out of his hand. Then took evasive action and got the blind bandit and put him in a headlock. But the blind bandit broke loose and attempted to slash Sack's arm off. But Sack dodged it. Sack leaped for the straw, but the blind bandit grabbed his leg. Bandit and Super Sack both leaped for the straw. But Super Sack gained it first. As the blind bandit started to inch his way away from Super Sack charged him, pulling the hood off of the bandit. And he jabbed him.
The force of the explosion blew Sack all the way into a shower, and he opened the shower curtain with all the strength he had left.
I'm knocked out. Oh.
I'm a goofy goober! You're a goofy goober!
Sack was being taken to the castle to be crowned the new king of Sackopolis. He walked up the stairs to now meet up with Theophilus and his friend, who were seated and waiting for Sack to take his throne as the king of Sackopolis.
You're here to knight you? You okay?
You now are king.
And the crowd goes wild. Woo! Yeah. Sports! Woo! Woo, Sack! Pop Sack! Uncle Timmy? Here with Super Sack. How does it feel to be becoming the new king of Sackopolis?
Honestly, it's like a reality because, like, I really am the king of Sackopolis. You know what I mean?
So, do you think that all your hard work paid off? Like, slaying the slasher and, napping the knack sapper lapper?
Yeah, the knack sapper lapper was, he was a tough one, but, I kind of had to cheat, so.
I feel you.
Take one step,
I feel you.
That's how you gotta do it.
Which of the three battles was the toughest battle?
I would say the last one for sure. Yeah, he was a dirty dog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he fooled me.
Was he doggone?
He was doggone. I trained hard for that battle. Ran 20 miles a day.
Oh yeah. I heard.
3 hours
I heard that was very intense. But how did the training go? Was it?
Pretty well. Went 19 years, 241 hours. So it wasn't that long,
Oh no, not too bad. Not too bad. All right, well that's a minute, and we will be talking to you later, Sack.
All right, see you later.